Hello and welcome to The Washing Up. Last time I checked, I was Chris.
And I'm Christy.
And I believe that's still the case.
Yes.
It's been it's been kind of an interesting week this week. We'll come to the main reason why we've had an interesting week at the end of the episode, but it does spin back to last episode. What did you think of this week's Bake Off and this week's cooling rack?
Well, they're a bit middle of the road, weren't they?
Yeah, it felt like we were kind of in that sort of holding pattern week.
It's like it's been a busy week and it's Thursday and it's still busy and there's busyness going on, but it's not differentiated from the other general busyness, nor is there kind of like relief in sight because we're not near the end of the week. It's Thursday.
It's kind of deep, what you just said then.
I'm a very deep person.
It's a Sunday night here we're recording, so it's probably too deep for a Sunday night. But
I know. I've been floating in the pool this afternoon. I've probably just gone existential by accident.
Yeah, we'll go back to the pool after we finish recording.
Sounds good.
So anyway, to get on with the episode, because we really do need to get on with the episode. I think we're getting closer and closer towards the end. That's difficult to say, but we are.
I know.
I think we need to begin with the thing we begin with every week, which is the most important element, I think, of Bake Off.
Which is?
Sweary Canary's jumper game.
Oh, it's on point. This blue is like a periwinkle blue.
Oh, it was a beautiful blue.
Cornflower blue.
Once again, showing that fashion and baking go together beautifully.
Indeed, they do.
And she is our style icon, realistically.
She is. I mean, Monica was almost up there this week because Monica actually accessorised to go with her cinnamon snails.
Like, she did indeed, you're right.
She had the swirly pendant that went with her snails. That was great.
And we really like that. I mean, Fiona's done that in previous weeks where she's accessorised, little touches with the earrings and stuff like that. Yeah. But no, Monica was good this week. But again, I just maintain that we are a little bit biased here, but Sweary Canary was bang on point again.
Yes.
And now, of course, we are going to review the work of, the delightful duo, the wonderful duo.
Batman and Robin.
Yep. Billy Paul Verhoeven and Tegan Ray Higginbotham.
There's just not enough mentions of Billy Ray Cyrus in our lives these days.
Some would say not enough, some would say too much.
There's not enough. That was the first mention of Billy Ray Cyrus I've had.
About the flaky tart?
Yes, the flaky tart was great. I want to see a cover of it. I want to see what's known as a filk made of it. I learnt that from some folk people I know that go to folk festivals and they have filk competitions where they rewrite folk songs. I used to do that, but we just did that for reviews. That's...
Filk. There you go. Don't say we're not an educational podcast.
I know. Last week felching, this week filk.
From felching to filk. That will be the companion book that will be going with the box set of this podcast. So they did open up with a discussion. I think Paul got in early in case people were looking at the Wellington Challenge this week and thinking to themselves, well, that's just like burgers.
No.
I'm with Paul 100%.
Yep, definitely.
And as you know, that always pains me when I have to be with Paul 100%. I do
Paul
like...
has great points.
He does have great points and poor pronunciation, but great points.
He has great points, like how burgers should be pure. And that this week was a baking challenge. The whole lamb and the pastry all go in together.
It really was. And I think
baking.
And I think if they got the bake wrong, as a couple of people definitely got the bake wrong, it showed up. And I think it did actually show that the Wellington Challenge I actually thought was quite clever because, yes, there was the meat element to it and obviously the seasoning element to the beef and things like that, to the lamb, sort of beef Wellington like most normal people would have.
I think it's an inspired choice. I want one.
Well, I'll see what I can do about that. But
just talk to Matt Moran, just get him to pop around with some lamb.
Just get the thugs in the lamb industry around.
Thugs in the lamb industry and what did Paul call him? The shill.
Yes, he said he was in the pocket of big lamb.
Big lamb, yes.
Yeah, I prefer to think of the thugs in the lamb industry, just sort of, producing the bone from a leg of lamb and just sort of beating you over the head going, have some lamb!
Are they with the thugs in the scallop industry?
No one's with the thugs in the scallop industry. They're all on their own. Rex Hunt is fighting them off. We all know that much.
Yeah. Sorry, that's a very obscure Get This reference. Yes. Hello to any Get This
Yes, hello to all Get This fans out there. And actually that links in quite beautifully.
Does it?
With our next little bit, which is that we're starting to piece together one of the most important questions that we have to ask of the cooling rack.
Yes.
Which is, how do Paul and Tegan live their lives?
It's quite interesting when you start to get these little glimpses into the Verhoeven Higginbotham household. See, I said your names correctly. I'm over it. I was never in it, but I've built bridges, unlike some people.
Well, what can I say? I'm a bitter little man.
Yes.
Anyway,
back to the window into the world of Paul and Tegan.
And what we've found is, first of all, that they travel to very exotic locations in their minds.
Or in actual reality.
We have no proof.
No, but...
They seem to contradict themselves every time they speak about a foreign destination they've been to.
Yeah, well, I'm disappointed that this week had no mentions of foreign destinations. I'm keeping a log of where they go to get ideas for when I actually go out of Australia and travel. And how will I know if they're not mentioning?
I think at the end of the run of this podcast, I think we need to have a map where we can just put little pins on the map and then upload it so that the listeners can see.
But they're falling behind. There was no mention of where they've been.
And they were even being trolled this week. The Sweary Canary actually made reference again to Paris.
She did.
And I'm starting to suspect now that the Bakers, I know this was recorded a while ago, but I've got this idea that there is some connection going on between the past and the future.
Yes.
And they're going back in time and they're now just trolling them.
Yes, but back to their lives. We've got some great points, very salient points.
So we've talked about the exotic locations.
Yes.
Then we found out that Paul throws asparagus at the bathroom wall.
I think you'll find the term is pith.
Yes, he piths it at the wall.
He piths it at the wall.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's out of a helmet.
I hope so.
I hope it's out of a pith helmet.
I like the idea of a pith helmet made of asparagus that he just sort of lobs at walls.
That's even too far from my brain today.
That's a worry. The other image that I got, which was, I don't know if I necessarily wanted this image, was the shelving of Tonka beans. Now, we won't go into the magic bean and the Uranus reference that Paul produced, but the shelving of Tonka beans. I've now got this image of a really sort of like a Midnight Express scene where Tegan's going through customs, sweating up profusely, and there's sniffer dogs going around looking for Tonka beans and breathing heavily, and the big sign with a big Tonka bean with a cross through it, and it's like the big signs in Indonesia with the whole thing about drugs equal death, and this Tonka bean equals probably a bit of an unpleasant stay and some questioning.
Why are they illegal? What is the evils of Tonka beans?
I don't know. We need to put that out to the listeners, I think. If anyone knows what the evils are. I mean, I know that Kinder Surprise is banned in America. So it could be like that. Maybe there's a surprise inside the Tonka bean that might choke children.
Wow. Americans really are. Yeah,
the Kinder Surprise being banned in America is one of my favourite little factoids about...
But they have guns.
Yeah, but they're not as dangerous as a small European toy.
Oh, dear.
We ban the important things in America.
Indeed.
And I think the other thing that we learned was that sometimes Paul and Tegan are a little bit upper class. Now, I did say the other day that I thought that Paul was occasionally out of touch. And he did talk about that again this week when he mentioned how you smell coffee beans to change the flavour, get the flavour of wine out of your mouth at a wine tasting.
But you do the same thing when you do perfume, and I learnt that, and I'm not very classy.
But there's a difference in reference between when you're doing perfume testing versus when you're doing a wine tasting. Unless it's a bit like the movie Sideways.
Yeah.
I'd like to actually envision that it was a bit like the movie Sideways, which is what happens when we have done wine tours in the past. It always ends up a little bit like Sideways, which is, I'd like to think that that's how Paul's wine tasting experience goes. Yes. But the use of the coffee beans for the wine tasting, again, Paul's a little bit above it, but I think you had a bit of an issue with Voice of the People.
With Teagues?
Yeah, and her capsicum.
No, I didn't. What I thought was awesome is that she's lived this life that I could only dream of because her mum actually charred capsicum on an open flame. I didn't learn that stuff until I watched MasterChef and stuff in the 2000s. And there's her mum charring capsicum. Now, my mum It was just sliced up, and tossed in a salad, usually with some cubed cheese and some iceberg lettuce.
A little bit of bacon goes a long, long way.
It does indeed. Or if we were really fancy, it was lying the halved slice of Kraft single.
Oh.
In triangles, overlapping each other with the salad on top.
That's a little bit classy.
It's a little bit fancy.
It's a little bit fancy indeed. That's probably a bit of a window into your life that I don't know if the listeners really want.
No, let's just close that window. Move back to the view we have at Paula Teagan's house.
I think the best way to move past your mum's salad is with somebody who's on the opposite end of the cooking and baking scale.
Yes.
It is that time. And that indeed is the theme music to both Doogie Howser MD and Antonio Boy Genius. And first of all, happy birthday to young Antonio Boy Genius this week.
Happy birthday, Antonio.
Don't worry, Fiona, I'll come back to you later. I know you were very angry when I wished him happy birthday and not you happy birthday.
We didn't have a reference for their birthday.
She didn't send us a note.
Does it show up on Twitter?
There was no birthday notification. I didn't get an invite to the party.
Yeah, well, I did. Sorry, love.
You gotta share these things.
No, it was a girls-only event. It was bacon. Bacon and bacon.
Bacon and bacon.
Yeah. That's Dot's party. Anyway, Antonio
Boy Genius this week actually is going to focus on his relationship with Paul. Because there's a lot to work through. There seems to be a lot to work through. Paul's not really over this bullying episode that he's talking about, is he?
Well, it kind of came out of left field. I mean, it's hilarious. It's absolutely beautifully done.
See, I think I need to use my educational background here.
Uh-huh.
I think I need to analyse the situation, and I think I need to actually break it down for everybody. So I'm going to use my educational training because, let's face it, I have to use it in some way, shape or form. And
is this analysis?
Podcasting analysis, I think.
All right, so everyone should just be lying back on their couch.
Yes, telling me about their childhood. No, I don't actually want to know about your childhoods, people. Don't tell me about your childhood. I think that this is what happened. Now, it's if for those who aren't aware of what we're carrying on about, and I'm not talking about just in general because no one ever is, but I talk more about with this Antonio and Paul situation. Now, just to bring it back, Paul created a bigger brother style relationship with Antonio on the podcast.
Peppy and Homer.
It was very Peppy and Homer, and we actually featured a graphic where I altered their faces, and made them look like Peppy and Homer. Antonio bought into this. He really did buy into this on social media. You could just see this burgeoning relationship and the whole toot thing. And toot Antonio. It was a wonderful, supportive relationship. And Paul was indicating that he was firmly behind Antonio, and he's really shown that he is Team Antonio.
Yes.
He's completely Team Antonio. Mm-hmm. And then, after talking about how Team Antonio he was, and it was always like, I'll never let you down, not quite son, but little brother, I'll never let you down.
Yes.
One of the weeks that Antonio wins Star Baker, Paul's not watching.
Ooh.
And so Antonio started trolling him at that point about the fact that, maybe I go home this week, and start sending him sort of semi-spoilers to sort of, get a bit of a rise out of him. Now, I equate this to a parent saying to their child, you are the most important thing in my world. Of course I'll be there at that recital of yours, and then they don't show up.
Oh, that's sad.
Yes, it's very sad, and I think that's what sort of happened here in Antonio. He felt it.
I feel guilty now for laughing at this horrible psychological
I think Antonio felt abandoned, and he lashed out at Paul because Paul was showing him this attention, and then suddenly wasn't there in his moment of joy, moment of triumph, and he's abandoned.
He's still in his formative years. I mean, this could scar Antonio for life.
It could scar him for life.
It could affect his dreams of being a pastry chef.
Paul then got really defensive. And he got really defensive. And you sort of heard, screw you, Antonio. And he starts really... And Antonio is now trying to buy Paul's love back by offering to make him a cake.
Oh, that's like a guilt trip. I've seen that move with my mum.
Yeah, this is the worrying part here, is that Antonio, I think you need to be your own man. I mean, you're a young individual. You're a young man. You're a very respectable young man. You've demonstrated, great baking abilities. You don't need to fall into these psychological games, Antonio.
Yeah, don't base your intrinsic value on the external, value placed on you by Mr. Verhoeven. It's a road to hell.
You are not beholden to Verhoeven.
No one is beholden to Verhoeven.
I think that's an important point. Having said that, I still think that Paul's support of him is really cute.
It is.
It's cute and delightful and wonderful, and I really do think that they will have a fantastic coffee date at the conclusion of this.
I just want to see Tegan trumping them, like in the background, just over the shoulder, just kind of like waiting for the cake to come out.
Tegan's just sort of scouting for the cake. And hey, Antonio, how you going, Antonio? And meanwhile, Tegan's just sort of skulking around the back.
Yeah, just checking Antonio's bag.
Checking for the cake. There's no nuts in that cake. There's no nuts in that cake. No, good, I can eat it, thank you.
Yeah.
Now back to, of course, Antonio Boy Genius. And what I liked about Antonio this week...
Mm-hmm.
I liked the fact that he dominated James in the Wellington Challenge after James started just mouthing off.
I don't know if that was like true fear that Antonio showed when Lamb was brought up, or if it was just ultimate trolling.
I think what we've seen with the whole Paul and Antonio thing is that Antonio is quite capable of trolling with the best of them.
Wow.
And I think that he psyched James out.
Did
and made an incredible Wellington. It was really good, and I thought that Antonio did that really well. I did also think that his choux pastry fish, which was wonderful and very colourful and very bright, it did also look very school projecty.
Oh, you mean like the ones that you get when you get the picture already printed out and then you stick the cotton balls on them?
Yes, a bit like that. But it was choux pastry, obviously, so higher level of skill. But it looked very school project.
I don't know. Cotton balls are very, tricksy.
But I think that, again, that was one area where it sort of belied his age. He sort of demonstrated his age a little bit.
But to be honest, everyone's bakes looked quite diorama-y. I mean, you expect that from Olivia.
Well, we'll come back to Olivia in a minute, because I think we need to get into James at this point.
You're awesome.
Yes, we do have a bit of an Olivia crush going on here as well, but we'll come back.
Okay.
Because we need to get into James.
Oh, don't go too hard.
Now, we've all talked about, both us and our betters at the cooling rack.
Yes.
Have talked often about this is very much kill your darlings territory, and nobody wants anyone to go home at this point in time.
Yeah.
Now, I think I sort of gave a bit of an indication last week that I was a bit over James. Yeah. And that I wasn't on board with this, kill your darlings thing just yet. I thought there was one more shoe to drop. Interestingly enough, in the week that choux pastry ends up being the final challenge. Don't have to laugh at it that much. It wasn't that funny. But James came in with a I know what I'm doing vibe. And talked about the fact that he did such a great job last week with his final showstopper, which again, I will point out, he stole.
Yep.
So I was already over him by that point.
Yeah.
So he comes in talking himself up off the back of a stolen showstopper.
Yes.
And then goes, I know what I'm doing. Now, the I know what I'm doing, we've seen this before.
Oh, yes.
We've seen this before. In a show that Paul mocked me mercilessly for watching the finale of, Survivor 2016. Thank you for the background there. Okay, that was our Survivor theme. Please don't sue us, Mark Burnett. But in 2016 Survivor, every time somebody went, I control this game, that was usually the last thing you heard before the tribal council quietly took them out the back and had them killed.
Yes.
Every single time they put someone on camera at the start of an episode going, I'm in control of this game, you knew they were gone.
Yeah.
And it happened every single time.
James just went Des.
He did. He went very Des. For those people who watch Survivor, he went very Des. But this was sort of where I went with James, is that he's like, I know what I'm doing. And the second James said that, I'm thinking to myself, you're in trouble. And then after the second challenge, James is still going, I know what I'm doing. And as I pointed out on Twitter on the night, has anyone else quietly noticed the fact that James is talking himself up, but he's 0 for 2 on the challenges?
Yeah. Yeah.
Both of them went very badly for him.
They did. They went hot. Paul had it coined beautifully with his metaphor of James just being like full of energy, but like that hose that you're not holding, and it's just flinging around everywhere. Like,
yeah, it was a really good analogy by Paul.
Yeah.
Because the thing is that confidence is one thing, but you kind of have to have a reason.
Yep.
And James hadn't shown anything, but was telling everyone how wonderful he was. And Tegan and Paul both pointed it out. By the third challenge, he wasn't saying it with any conviction.
No.
He was saying it because he'd started to say it, and you really can't back down now.
No.
And the idea that, for me, the thing that sort of crystallises it was the idea that you were the only person that did what Matt wanted with the lamb, in terms of leaving the fat on it. And Matt looked at it and just talked it up about this. Oh, look, he's left the fat on it. That's exactly what I'm after. And then you come second last in the Wellington Challenge.
Yes.
The rest of the bake must have been not very good.
I mean, it's quite sad that his last bake also looked like the scariest kind of souvenir koala bear you could ever get.
Well, let's put it out there. On Twitter, we were all referring to it as a koala with an STI. And that wasn't...
The myxomatosis had gone into a zombie strain.
Yes, it was he got a bit mixy. But everyone on Twitter was referring to it as that STI koala.
Oh, no, that's right. They get chlamydia. Myxomatosis is rabbits. Okay.
But I was going to let you run with that, but you did put yourself up on it.
No, I like to... I don't like...
We're an educational podcast, as we've already shown with our use of terminology.
But it's one of my things I hate on podcasts is when people like say something as if it's truth. And then even when they do know it's different, they don't acknowledge it later on down the track.
We'll come back to that in a minute because I'm going to call you up on that point.
Oh, fine.
And just quickly, just on a side note before we get into the final challenge and how it all ended up, they did promote Tegan on Whose Line, and we have that recording actually right now on the Foxtel IQ.
Yes.
So that's recording. So I'm looking forward to seeing Tegan on Australian Whose Line. I'd like to think she's the Sandy Togsvig of it.
It'd be good. It'd be good to see her like making shit up.
And I think the hope for me personally, and this is a personal note, I'd like to see her host the Australian QI, much like Sandy Togsvig now hosts QI.
Yes.
And I think we've already got her Alan.
Oh, Paul!
Paul would be perfect. I think Paul is serving as Tegan's Alan Davies.
Yes.
I think that'd be spectacular.
Indeed.
So if the powers that be at comedy are listening to this, and we all know they are.
Absolutely, we're in.
Because the powers that be at comedy have nothing better to do with their time than listen to us natter about somebody who's starring on one of their shows.
Yes.
Then set up Australian QI and set it up with Tegan as the host and set it up with Paul as the Alan. That'd be spectacular.
Yeah, and go back to front, start with Zed.
I think we have to take some credit as well on this podcast. We don't do it enough.
No, we're humble people.
We're very humble. We're very humble.
We're like the humble pies of the bake-off shop. Like the humble pies of the bake-off shed. So
I think what we need to take credit for, though, is two improved performances. Now, again, I know this was recorded months and months and months ago.
Yeah.
But I'd like to think that my prediction that Lisa would come fourth last week inspired her to make that beautiful Wellington.
Yes, and it was me with the hindsight coaching to Monica going, she needs to hit her stride this week and then she could be dangerous. And she did. Look at her.
So between the two of us...
Yeah, we need to work on Fiona.
Well, we're going to work on the... Don't panic, Fiona. We haven't really mentioned you yet apart from how pretty your jumper was. You're not getting away this week.
Yes.
You are not getting away this week, young lady.
No, ma'am. Miss.
Yes, you're not getting away. And I think the last image I think that the cooling rack put out there on that second challenge was the Wellington pile.
This immediate image of Fiona struggling under this like mountain of like sailing ships and admirals and help! I'm
drowning under a sea of boots.
Yes,
just
Wellington
boots just drowning her.
But this is the thing I'm surprised they didn't mention on the cooling rack. She went rogue. She went rogue on that Lamb Wellington challenge.
And backed it up on Twitter with her Cartman, I do what I want.
I know, like...
That doesn't end well.
We've seen where arrogance lands you.
It lands you in Jamesville.
Yes.
Now, we're not going to get there just yet. I can't... just yet.
That made me really worried.
I'm saving my Fiona Rage up.
Okay.
I'm saving my Fiona Rage up.
It's just a taster for what you're in for, young lady.
Yes, it is indeed. I still also think, by the way, and we skipped over this in the first challenge, and they did mention
We didn't even mention the first challenge.
Oh, we sort of mentioned the first challenge.
Oh, we mentioned Monica's accessorising with her.
Yeah, we sort of mentioned the first challenge, but to be fair, it was more about for us. They did reference on the cooling rack, and Paul mentioned this idea about them helping each other out still with the baking.
Yeah.
I was doing the Twitter for the washing up on Tuesday night, and I wasn't particularly impressed with the team challenge aspect coming back into it.
Livia.
You know, everyone. It wasn't so much a case of like a little bit of help. It was basically
fully assembling her Danish.
It was doing the Danish for her.
It made me sad. You're better than that.
You've got to let people rise and fall on their own merit.
No baking pun intention.
No, it was very intentional. Very intentional. And now on to the last challenge.
Yeah.
And somebody really got a kick out of the last challenge.
I don't know who you're talking about.
Didn't they?
It was just so cute.
Okay, so
Everyone
that's
was just like little turtles and like little fishes, and then there was an owl, and oh my god, the little kind of like the Chinese zodiac. Shoe-pastry Chinese zodiac. It was like, it's so cute.
This is exactly, and this is not put on. That is exactly the unscripted, unplanned reaction that every single shoe pastry animal got.
I know, and then it was like topped off with Matt having a face full of cock. Another trick you missed on the cooling rack.
I can't believe that on the cooling rack they missed that one too. That was just, Matt referring to himself as a cock.
Getting a face full of Fiona's creamy cock.
Oh, it was the fact that they referred to that and it was missed was incredible to me. But that was the exact, and it wasn't prompted or planned, and I'm watching and tweeting away, and I just suddenly hear this high-pitched thing in my left ear, and I just looked over, and it's so cute! It's so cute!
But like Olivia's like little fishies.
I know,
the little turtle in the little...
They were cute.
Little sea garden. It reminded me of Fantasia.
They were very cute.
Yes.
They were very cute. Olivia...
Except for the drop bear from hell.
We'll come back to the drop bear from hell, because
God,
we'll go to something lovely before we go to the drop bear from hell. And the lovely thing was Olivia. Now,
yeah,
I'm convinced she just bought an activity toy set on the way to the filming.
Genius.
And the last few... Yeah, this isn't a complaint, by the way.
Genius.
This is genius.
Yes.
It's like stopping off on the way. She stopped past one of those $2 shops. There's a big plastic toy bucket set. She's gone, I can use that.
She goes, what am I going to be doing in my hotel room during things? I need something to keep me active.
Last week she went off and, of course, used those trees on the side of the Bomb Alaska volcano, which confused Maggie Bear. This week she went with the aquatic theme.
Yes.
And the turtle, and that was tremendous. I think that she's going very Australian Women's Weekly Cake Book.
She needs to do the new one. They need to do an Australian Women's Weekly Cake Book 2017.
I think there's going to be a lot of swearing in this one, though.
Why?
Because Olivia is sort of the secondary Sweary Canary. She's the
Maybe
backup.
they can team up and do it, and then like
I love it.
Fiona can do the like little shoe pastry zodiacs.
I like the idea that they're going to sort of have this sort of adult version of the Australian Women's Weekly Cake Book. Get this in your fuckers. That's going to be the catch try under it. Now get this in your fuckers, and that's going to be it.
Yes.
I think we had to meet our swearing quota this week. We haven't done that much yet.
No.
Although that's coming. Fiona, looking at you. And James had the definition of madness this week, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. How many times can you burn the same part of a shoe pastry and go, oh, I burnt another one. Let's just do it again.
Yes, but James is being claimed by the shed. It's like I said, we've reached Thursday, right? And there's always that one person in the office or in your closest staff room who just loses it, who just completely... It's been a busy week, full of busyness, and they just lose it. And you see them there, I don't know, just staring off into the distance.
In our workplace, that's called putting on a DVD for the rest of the week. You know, like day one on the Monday, you come in on the Monday, your active lessons, you've got, you know, really fun activity over here, really fun. Thursday afternoon, period 5, period 6, it's a DVD. By Friday afternoon, you're describing a DVD to them because you're too lazy to actually put one in. Yeah, so it's a bit like that. It did look like that at the end, and Tegan and Paul commented, you know, really accurately on that, and it was more a case of, I think James sort of felt that his time was up. I think he felt that he'd reached the limits of what he was capable of.
Yeah.
And I think it was almost like that pep talk he was giving at the start of the week was trying to talk himself into being good. And he very quickly worked out it wasn't working.
It was more that he just pushed his energy into the wrong place. It went to a place of arrogance instead of the place of confidence.
Yeah. And I mean, look, I like James. I really do.
Yeah.
But I like James, but yeah, I think it was time.
There's no one in this tent that I've detested.
And speaking of time, it's time. Tegan made a comment that while she was sad for James to go home, that she didn't know how she would cope if Fiona went. Now, I think that we've made no secret here that we are very much Team Sweary Canary.
Yes.
And all I can say to Tegan is that if you don't know how you would have coped, I've got no clue. I
half of our podcast wouldn't exist.
I was apoplectic with fear, and you saw it. I was yelling at the TV. I started off, I think the first tweet that I put out after the first challenge was, I'm not worried for Sweary Canary, but I think I referred to myself as being mildly miffed. I
went into, like, ostrich mode. I just went into complete denial. And I think what did that was when she went rogue on the lamb. Because as soon as you go rogue, it's like, I've seen it so many times in Great British Bake Off. Someone goes rogue, it's like, what does Mary Berry know what she's doing? I don't know.
They're doomed.
Whole career.
They're doomed.
They're doomed.
And I was terrified. And that third challenge, I think the moment that I snapped, and there was a moment I snapped, I just yelled out one word over and over again. 12. What are you... 12? What are you doing? You're in danger. You know you're in trouble. You know there's a chance you could be going home here, so you attempt to make 12 individual animals.
You can't blame Fiona.
12!
There were 12 animals that Buddha said could be in the years. It's Buddha's fault.
12! Pick one. I'm doing my favourite zodiac animal.
Just do a giant cock.
Just do a big cock.
Get that.
Or saving that a rooster. But you could just I mean...
What kind of animal is this, Fiona? Oh, it's a bed snake.
It's a trouser snake.
It's a trouser snake.
But I wasn't coping. If you go back and look at our Twitter feed from about halfway through the second challenge, I'm not coping. I think there was a point at the end of the third challenge where I actually typed, I'm not going to type who I think's going home this week. You can't make me type it, because I was convinced it was Fiona. I knew that James had been burning everything, but Fiona didn't get 12 Zodiac out, and she was
on the bottom of the Wellington pile.
And she was on the bottom of the Wellington piles, which is probably why she struggled with the Zodiac, to be fair. How you managed to make 12 signs of the Zodiac while you're coming out from the Wellington pile.
I am desperately worried about this week.
Well, I did say when I made the prediction about Fiona being in my top 3, my comment was if she nails it and if she lands one of these, if she sticks the landing on one of these weeks, she'll be unstoppable.
But we don't have any weak people left.
That's the problem, is that she can't
Liesl,
miss the landing.
Miss technical challenge.
And Liesl got her timing right.
Yeah. Antonio Boyges, you're right. Liesl's got her timing game down. Olivia's got to get her timing game right, and if she does, she's also a threat. Monica had
a brilliant week.
Yeah.
And when Monica's on
point,
it's very hard to see her losing. Antonio's Antonio, and is a savant. And I think the image I tweeted after after the Wellington Challenge was Mickey Mouse from Fantasia. It's like Antonio attempting a challenge he's never done before, and it was just, conjuring stuff out of nowhere. And you've got this tent full of people now.
Yes.
And I think Fiona's got the most incredible upside.
Yes.
But I think Fiona's also got the biggest capability to fall in a heap.
Well, we'll find out.
But I hope we don't find out Fiona.
Yes.
This is, you've got two sets of tiger parents. I'd like to think that the cooling rack is one set of your foster tiger parents and we're the other set.
Yes.
And we're disappointed, young lady.
You have us worried.
Don't do that to me again. I can't.
I don't need this stress.
I can't cope.
Because you don't live with Chris. And, his rants, he gets on here and rants, but you don't live with him.
I know that it's already been recorded, so you can't really change anything, but as I've said several times in this episode, I'm convinced we have some link and that we can coax people in the past to do things better.
You know why? Because of the occult power couple, Tegan and Paul.
Tegan and Paul, exactly. They're our portal through.
They are. They've created a portal of Bake Off.
And we're just running after them through it.
Yeah, exactly.
But, I'm loving our media banter with Fiona. I'm loving the Simpsons references back and forth. But I just want you to win Bake Off. It's not too hard to ask. To
be honest, I want everyone left to win Bake Off.
Is it that difficult, Fiona, for you to win a nationally televised baking competition against all these skilled bakers and a boy savant? It's not that difficult.
No.
Okay, bake something, outstanding and wonderful and technically complicated and just beat everybody else. It's easy. It's really easy. We're not asking for miracles.
No.
We're just asking for amazing baking better than anybody else in Australia.
We're asking for baking better than Mary Berry herself.
Yes, exactly. And by the way, just on a side note here, if you haven't seen the Children in Need special this year for the BBC, and especially the scenes of Mary Berry
yes.
serving multiple different types of cakes.
Yes.
You need to go and check that out on YouTube. It's absolutely wonderful.
It is.
And Mary Berry is a scream. And
Delightful.
So is Sue and Mel.
Yeah.
Sue and Mel are absolutely hilarious as well. So I think that's worth going and checking out. It's a good way to de-stress from when Fiona, nearly ruins your hopes and dreams.
Just on a random tangent, right? So this week, because I listened to lots of podcasts, and I didn't mention this to you, so you give me this what are you going on about now, Christy? Okay, I told you before that I think I've discovered Antonio's ancestors.
Oh, yes, you did.
There's the tomb of the baker in Rome, and
Yes.
it's this, ancient Roman baker who made good, has a really wicked sense of humour too. He basically quotes himself as going, some people, conquer countries and some of us bake. Just equating.
You need to find a copy of either an article or something like that, and we'll put it up on the Twitter so that Antonio can learn about his heritage.
Because I'm positive that this is his ancestor.
And I think the other thing that you need to pay attention to on social media is occasionally
Yes.
we deal in Twitter polls. And that brings me back to the final thing we're going to talk about this week.
Uh-huh.
Neenish tarts.
Neenish tarts.
Neenish tarts. Now I've had quite the week this week with Neenish tarts. And you've had quite the difficult week with Neenish tarts.
I don't know why I became so invested. I don't really like them. When I go to a bakery, I don't really care about the niche tart. I'm all about the eclair.
And I was good this week. I bought you an eclair.
You did. To rub in the fact that you had found a pink and brown niche tart.
Now, we were debating this. And by the way, it wasn't just a bit for the podcast. We were in the pool the next day.
How many times can we mention the pool?
As many times as humanly possible.
Yes.
I spent a lot of money on that pool. And we were in the pool... And we're arguing about Neenish tarts.
Yes.
Not joking. This is not a bit for the podcast. We were still arguing about Neenish tarts, and then
they should be brown and white.
And then on Wednesday night we were at trivia.
Yes.
And Christy, I think, had enough of my ranting and raving and decided to put it to the people.
Well, Angela from Trivia agreed with you, and her mum agreed with me. So I'm like, well,
And what annoyed me, by the way, about her mum agreeing with you was that she used the same logic that you used, which was, oh, I saw this documentary on Neenish Tarts. Who is watching a documentary on Neenish Tarts?
People are, because I'm a people and she's a people, and I know I spoke to someone else who'd seen it too.
I'm going to Teespring. I'm going to get a shirt made up that says "I'm a people."
I am a people.
Right, I think I'm going to get our first bit of merchandise made up. "I'm a people" shirts from Teespring. We'll do that.
Right.
But Christy then put it up on Twitter. Now, there's a couple of things to think about here. First of all, I have control of the primary account for the washing up. I haven't given Christy the password for it, and I was pleased on Wednesday night because while Christy was tweeting that out, I could tweet out on behalf of the washing up to say that the official position of the washing up was pink and brown.
Fine. Our official position can be pink and brown because all you traitorous people voted pink and brown.
Now,
unnecessary pink and brown Neenish Tarts. Oh.
Now, the reason why that sort of reaction was, what was the final number on the poll?
I don't know. I stopped counting after 5.
It was 100% pink and brown. Now, I do have to admit, 2 of those votes were me.
Yes.
I had 2 different accounts to vote on, and I voted on 2 different accounts. However, I believe you felt betrayed by a couple of bakers in particular.
Dead to me is the gift that I used, and it's correct. Olivia and Fiona.
I think that Olivia and Fiona made a wise choice personally. And I think we've settled this once and for all that Neenish Tarts are indeed pink and brown, not brown and white. I think that's been settled. I said I wasn't smug. I wasn't smug. I was merely enjoying my success. The funny part about it was the Neenish Tart I bought to celebrate was horrible.
Sucked in.
The Neenish Tart that I bought to celebrate the fact that I won.
My eclair was lovely.
So the fact that
I had a lovely eclair.
You did indeed. And I had a Neenish Tart. The cream was just terrible. So we won't mention that bakery ever again. But no, that was the Neenish Tart debate, which sort of has dominated our week, and hopefully we can now put that behind us. To be honest, I don't ever want to mention Neenish Tarts again either, personally. I'm a bit over the Neenish Tart thing myself. But I think we needed to bring that to the public's attention one last time, that this went for a week. And it was a long week. It was a really long week.
You didn't live with you.
No, I didn't. I could only bask in my glory.
Yes.
And on my victorious celebration at the end here, it is indeed time to fare thee well from the beautiful climes of the washing up headquarters.
Indeed.
Sink. The sink from the sink.
From the sink. That's what you do the washing up, isn't it? The sink.
No dishwasher for us. From the sink, ladies and gentlemen. And with that, we will bid you a fond adieu until next week.
Ciao, Bellas.